Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. So I watched the second episode of that it wasn't a Chris Hansen thing, Onision in real life documentary by the Discovery Plus network channel, streaming service, whatever they were. I'm not doing very well with like my words today, so I'm going to be relying heavily on the notes that I wrote. Case in point. So I will say, after watching this episode, they toned it down a lot. It wasn't nearly as overdramatic as the first one. It was a little bit more serious. So, you know, there's that. Opening the episode was footage of Onision vlogging his house and showing the audience. And this was a while ago when he lived in the old house before the swamp, before the McMansion, that like bungalow type place. And there was mice in the kitchen. He showed that to us. How did this guy ever have people following him in the first place? He was always disgusting. Mice in the kitchen. Like, I have a rat in my kitchen, but he lives there, thank you, in his nice 2-story house. That's different. He had mice in his kitchen. I remember like videos where it would just be like Kai vlogging, and there was my words, I don't know what's going on. I've got really bad brain fog today. Cabinet doors, that's it. There'd just be like dried stuff shining off the light, reflecting, because Greg would do those videos where he'd get food and just like throw it everywhere. Disgusting. He's always been disgusting. So the start of the episode, they go over Shiloh's mental breakdown whilst living with Onision, and then how she got taken away and sent back to Canada to live with her mum again because Onision called the police on Shiloh because Shiloh was threatening suicide or threatening to make it look like Onision was the culprit. I mean, I do recall some at the time anyway, a few years ago, when public discourse about mental health was lacking, people sort of pointed that to, well, Shiloh's clearly unhinged then. But you have to remember, she was about 18 when she did that. So, and she's with this guy who's almost, he must have been almost a decade older, about 26. Yeah, about 18, 26, something like that. So what does that say about the environment she was in, that she felt pushed to the point of threatening suicide and blaming Greg? I think that says more about the situation she was in. Then the documentary actually brings up Adrian, which I think a lot of people might be aware of Onision, but not so much when he dated Adrian. After he and Shiloh broke up, he dated Adrian for all of 3 weeks, or a month or so. It didn't last long because she was actually an adult. She was 26 years old when they dated and thus couldn't really be manipulated as easily. About like 2 or 3 weeks into them dating, Onision was saying stuff like how he was so in love with her and if she loved him, she would give up anything because he's a psychopath. There was a letter, and I remember reading this aeons ago. There was a letter that Adrian wrote to someone, one of her friends, and it got leaked. The jury's out there, and if it got like leaked, you know, by her, or it was either her or her friend, right? I'm sure the emails weren't hacked. But the letter itself it really shows him up for the psycho he is. So if you Google Adrian the letter Onision, read through it. It's long. It will take you about 20 minutes to get through, but it's worth it. So the internet reporter bloke is back. Thrilling. So the internet reporter's name is Stephen Asarch. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And on Twitter, he said that he was the executive producer and consultant for the Onision documentary. Consultant, sure. Executive producer. That's what he said on Twitter about his role in this. But then afterwards, right after I think the first episode aired, he tweeted that he had no involvement with the edit and he hasn't seen the episodes yet. He's seeing it when we are, you know, as they're coming out. So like, that doesn't sound like an executive producer to me. It just doesn't. I'm going to read out the tweets for you. A few things about the doc. I had no involvement with the edit and still haven't seen all the episodes in it as and when you are. That quote that makes Hansen seem like he was the start of the Onision investigation was meant to be sarcastic, but it didn't come off that way. Bollocks. That is absolutely bollocks. And I know that someone wrote on my video that he had come out and said this. Firstly, like, why should I believe that literally just because this bloke's tweeted that? It sounds like to me he is retroactively deciding Guys, I was being sarcastic. It's like Homer. Everything's like Homer Simpson. It's like Homer Simpson, where he's like,
"Oh, look at me. I'm making people happy. I'm the magical man from Happy Land in a gumdrop house on Lollipop Lane." Oh, by the way, I was being sarcastic.
Remember, I watched the first episode. Nothing in his tone or his mannerisms or even inflection seemed to suggest that he was being sarcastic. So either he is just the worst at sarcasm. Here's the way that you could have done it, right? You know, no one on the entire YouTube platform even mentioned Onision in a negative way before Chris Hansen, Lord and Saviour, came. Like, no one, absolutely no. That is dripping with that is a bit too much, right? But I'm just trying to exaggerate to, show Stephen A. Such how one can use, right? There's a lot of, with sarcasm, you can use the eyebrows to show that you're being sarcastic, on like a serious tone of voice. Elongate your vowels. No one, absolutely no. Use a lot of hyperbole. Right, this is just advice on if you want to work on your sarcasm. Personally, I don't fucking believe it. I just don't believe it. He has retroactively decided, because he got backlash for that, because people kicked off about it. Like, what? People have been bitching about Onision for years, how dare you? He's retroactively decided, guys, I was just joking, God. Plus, I don't have to believe you, so I'm choosing to not. He also goes on to say, in my interview, I spoke about why Hansen sucks for legitimate reasons, Gene, lying, etc. I hope the doc accurately reflects that. Thanks for all the criticism, both positive and negative, but I was essentially just a consultant for a few months and I had no control. If you were just a consultant, then why did you call yourself an executive producer, right? I've done media. I've been involved in some media things. Am I wrong? Does executive producer literally just mean consultant? With no actual control of what's going on? Or did words used to mean something? Am I in some sort of odd upside down world? I'm not sure I'm understanding what's going on. But here's my conspiracy theory. I think this dude tried to make out that he had much more involvement than he actually did. And now that it's getting backlash, he's like, oh, hold on guys, I was just a consultant. That's how it seems to me. Unless, this tweet, the tweet about him being the executive producer, it could have been sarcasm. I'm just not intelligent enough to notice sarcasm, even though I'm British, so sarcasm is my first language. Chris Hansen's still in this, obviously, and there's a bit where he's talking about Adrian, but he first pronounces Adrian as Adrian, like they really couldn't have just done another take, but okay. So after Adrian dumps Greg gets back with Shiloh and tells Shiloh that they're getting married. He doesn't ask her, he just goes, we're getting married now, so that's a thing. Shiloh gets pregnant, but then she miscarried, so she went back to Canada to recover because she was at risk of getting sepsis or going septic. But then Greg told the internet that Shiloh lied about the miscarriage and also lied about being pregnant and lied about sepsis to get his fan base to, go harass her off the internet. The documentary then says that the volatile breakup begins to alienate Greg's fan base and it shows negative tweets from 2012. But in the first episode of this documentary, they said that the internet was overwhelmingly positive for Onision until Chris Hansen came along. So what is the truth? Remember your own lore. What is canon? Yeah, a documentary kind of is telling a story, right? Even if it's a true life story, a documentary is storytelling. So maybe just double check, go back to the first episode and see don't just make it up as you go along. The episode then talks about Onision falling out with Shane and Onision being a dick to Shane over Twitter, world's tiniest violin, and then it goes on about him bullying Eugenia Cooney because Onision would bully Eugenia Cooney for her eating disorder. And the doc says that he has made over 75 videos on Eugenia alone. That's almost as many videos as I've made about Onision. By the way, I'm being sarcastic. So Eugenia Cooney is also in this episode. They discussed how Onision was purely doing it for the views because the views translated into money, and the only reason that he ever stopped making these videos on Eugenia was that YouTube started demonetizing them, so he couldn't get anything from them. So that's why he stopped. Then there's this random dude, and they call him an Onision detractor. I don't know what to say about that other than they got a random dude on before they even asked me. I'm being sarcastic. I literally don't care. If they had asked me to be in it, I would have said no anyway, because I like to spend most of my time sleeping, and also leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Then it comes to the Kai segment of the documentary, and if you listen really, really, really carefully, you can almost hear in the distance the sound of water slowly trickling from the eyes down the cheeks and splashing onto the ground, slowly, melancholically, black and white, really deep. So then this Stephen reporter guy, who beginning to lose a little bit more respect for him every time he talks, says that everyone on the internet acts as though Kai isn't part of the problem and they overlook Kai. Excuse me, how are you investigating this and you haven't seen my video, my highest viewed video of all time, called Kai is crying thanks or cheers or something like, and had like what, almost 800,000 views? You're investigating this, you're an internet reporter, and it's not just me that did videos. Did Blair White, did Jacqueline, other people have done videos about Kai's involvement in this. A lot of commentary channels have done video. So what are you talking about? Are you being sarcastic again? Am my IQ points not high enough to understand or comprehend your sarcasm? I don't know why I'm fanning myself like suddenly. I'm just really embarrassed that I can't, I'm going red in the face. Because I can't understand your sarcasm. I'm just too stupid, clearly. How did they get this reporter guy on and they didn't get me on? Me, the person who could write the entire Encyclopedia Dramatica on the onions and the swamp. For shame, for shame. Didn't want to be on your stupid documentary anyway. So they cover the beginning of the relationship and marriage and Kai creating the YouTube channel under the name LaneyBot before the transition into Cool Guy Kai. So there is less overly dramatic stuff in this episode, but they keep showing screen records of Googling definitions of words, much like how Greg would just Google definitions of what, that's a thing that he loves doing. Just right, let's look at the definition of this so I can prove that I'm right by straw manning everyone. They show a screen record, someone typing in what's the definition of grooming, but simp comes up first. And I took a screenshot of it in a serious documentary. What's the definition of simp? And they really kept that in. Then there's a very serious segment about predators on the internet. There are an estimated 500,000 online predators active every day on the internet. And they talk with a woman who had a very horrific and serious incident with a predator on the internet when she was younger. They also interview a girl called Regina, who was Kai's friend when Regina was 15, and they spoke for a few years. Kai would always try to get Regina to go visit them. It felt like Onision was priming them to, have a three-way relationship so then he could sleep with someone that isn't Kai. So Billy and Sarah didn't want to be involved in this documentary, and I have more on this in a minute. But in the notes that I have here, when they get to the Kai grooming Sarah segment, they just blur out the faces really poorly. So it's very, anyone could kind of look up and find out who it is. So, good one, guys. Then they really included video clips of Philip DeFranco and Deaf Noodles talking about, but not me. I've had enough. Then there's a very short clip of an interview with the sheriff of Greg's town, and that's for the third and final episode. Then it ends. Now, so I was talking to one of my friends about this, and she said to me that people are mad about this episode because they used people's stories who explicitly said they didn't want to be mentioned or involved, and they were told, I wasn't aware of this, they were told by the documentary team, it's okay, we won't involve anyone who doesn't consent, and then they did it anyway. Shiloh had said that she wouldn't do it if they didn't all consent, but she's on there talking about the stories of girls who didn't want to be spoken about. And Edwin's generation put up a video of him talking about the documentary. And he talks about how the girls were upset that their stories would be shared on the show when they didn't want that. And how when the documentary team contacted him to be on it, they assured him that that would not be the case. The girls' stories are public all over YouTube already, but the documentary team lied about not including them to save face and get people like Edwin and Repzion to agree to be on the show, and otherwise they wouldn't have it's really messy. And I was completely unaware of that side of things. So there you go. Good thing that I'm doing this video to tell you guys what you're not missing out on by not signing up the streaming service. I know, where's my medal will be in the post. As well as my invite to make my own documentary about myself, no doubt. But yeah, so to sum up for the second episode, they really toned down the over-dramatizations. But in lieu of that, they included stories from people who didn't want to be involved when they had explicitly stated that they wouldn't do that and had lied to YouTubers to get them to come on. What a fucking mess. What an absolute mess. So yeah, I don't want to be on your rubbish documentary in the first place. But on a more serious note, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, remember to like, comment, subscribe. I will more than likely review the third episode. Why not? And yeah, that's all. Follow me on Instagram. See you guys next time. Bye.